Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Given as how I have no clue as to when or how or where this might be viewed, I'm Frank Watson, and this is my attempt at 81 years old to continue making sense of social media, if such thing is possible at all. One of the difficulties is the learning curve and learning how to use it. This particular meeting is called POOF, and it makes use of the free Zoom account that I have, whereby I get a half an hour to talk with a couple of friends. Today I have scheduled Tom Probasco and John Lowe, and I have had difficulty sorting out exactly how Zoom gets invitations to people. Today I copied the invitation and the password off of the my own Zoom and emailed it to Tom and John. We'll see how that goes. Now, this could get posted several different ways. I like several things about Zoom, and one is that it's pretty portable. You get you when you finish up, it processes and gives you a link for both audio and video that can be used with Facebook page or main page or a group. It can be emailed. There's several different ways that you can go with that. One of the pages that I post to is Acoustic Indiana, and Acoustic Indiana has tended to focus on music and entertainment. If you listen to music, well, this is true. You also buy musical instruments or musical equipment. And here comes John Lowe. So we'll just go to John and assume that Tom will be shortly behind him. Hello, John. Well, I see John is asked to unmute.
There we go.
Hello, John. How you doing?
Fine, Frank. How are you doing?
Well, I am recording. We are in process.
Okay.
I was explaining a little bit about what I'm doing here with I'm an old guy that's trying to figure out acoustic or social media.
Well,
Yeah.
you did a good job. I was trying to put it all together, about the calendar that you put forth, and I'm going to have to look at that, jot it down in my date book too quite a bit to work it out so I'm on time and everything. So anyway, is Tom with us yet?
Tom is not with us yet, but I expect he will show up. And I tend to keep things pretty loose.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a conversation, whether it's just the two of us or that's just how we work. Whoever shows up, shows up.
I see.
And usually Tom is pretty punctual. We're still a minute or two ahead of time here.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Because yeah, I've got about 2-3 minutes to go. My watch is usually about 2 minutes ahead of time to keep me on time to do things. At any rate, I had sent out some documents that I assumed you got. I think three. I had some problems trying to work it out with the my computer and promoting it. I really had some of those done from a previous computer, and since I have a new one, I had to, take a lot of the material before and put it into the new, and so I had to shift from one set of documents to another, and so I probably sent you a lot more documents that you received than you probably needed, but you probably could figure that out, I hope. Did you understand what I was getting at? I think I sent three different documents that I would refer to in the future some way.
Okay. And I see there comes Tom. I hope.
There he is.
Yep. Good morning, Tom Probasco's Chin.
Yeah, John. Yeah, I just popped in.
We are recording, Tom, so
Okay, all right.
try not to use any bad words or.
Oh dear, that's gonna be hard.
And we were just beginning to discuss. I started this video off solo, and I was explaining to John that I have to keep working because social media keeps changing, and I keep trying to expand my horizons in social media. I think it's important for people who are not experts or professionals to be able to have conversations. And so what I'm doing is I'm using consumer level technical media and learning how to do that, which is even at the lowest level has a learning curve to it, including the invitations, the scheduling of the meeting. I put your names and email addresses down. This time I went ahead and copied the invitation and sent a copy by email to each of you, as that hasn't been happening consistently automatically with the way I've been doing it. So you may have gotten two invitations. Let me know if that happens. But here we are. I will be posting this to my Facebook page, my personal page, and then my Acoustic Indiana page. I will probably post this up first to Acoustic Indiana and then to my personal page is how it will go. I'm trying to use the Facebook story as posting to your story gets a lot more views than just posting to a page. It gives people fingernail looks at what you're doing, and then they can choose from a very short look at what you're doing whether to go to the post. I can also I can send those to you in other ways. For instance, I think I can email them links, and I'm starting to go to YouTube, post to YouTube, and then from YouTube go to Facebook. Now, if that doesn't confuse you, we'll just leave the whole mess and get on to our business at hand, which today Tom, do you have any updates on what your world is like before we go to John and follow some of his thoughts that he has prepared?
No, let's get right to John, because I have all the material that John sent, so I think we ought to get on. I think we need to get on with doing that.
Well, what I sent you would be what I would be uh, providing in the future. It wouldn't have to be immediate at all. In fact, I was thinking, first of all, going with you, Tom, that you had sort of started, with Wendell Berry, but
Oh, yeah.
I could explain a couple things, though, that there was a chart on the development of Scripture. Did you get that one?
I got them all. See, I've got, I've got one. Okay, that's the arguments for the existence of God. That's the heading of one. Then there's the greatest mysteries. Just
Yeah.
going through here.
Right.
Christ's death and resurrection.
Yes. And there was a chart then about Scripture, how time-wise, how it developed.
Yeah, an ontological argument for the being of or
Yeah, that's
being of God following Neoplatonic thought.
right. And and then, but have you found the one on the chart? What about you, Frank? Did you find the one on the chart that Christ's death and resurrection, and how the scriptures were related, and the events that went on at the time of the development of the scriptures? Did you get that one?
I got them all. I have not looked at them closely.
Oh, what about you? Did you find that too, Tom?
Well, okay. Are you talking
It's
about
just
the
one page. It's just one page on
Yeah,
that
the
one.
one that says Christ's death and resurrection. And
Yeah,
then
you got it.
there, Pentecost, Paul's conversion, Paul's
Yeah,
letters.
yeah,
Yeah,
we can
do.
go into that anytime too. But I was really thinking about you, Tom, that you sort of started with Wendell Berry. But if whatever you think, Frank, whatever you suggest. But it'd be all right with me to go ahead with Tom, because we sort of started with Wendell Berry, and I could always go to the other if you want we're will to do so, whatever.
Well, Tom, give us a little bit about how you relate to Wendell Berry and
Yeah.
Wendell Berry's importance to you, and then we will go from there to John.
I was sort of wondering about, what is Barry's ultimate concern, and what his need is, and what your need is in relationship to him.
Yeah. Well, he's a farmer. No, well, he's a poet, he's an essayist, novelist, but his this is hard to simplify or hard to speak of briefly, but his concern is our connection to place. Now, I don't mean that he does that to exclusion of people. You mentioned, when I first brought this up, you were connected to people, but he's not excluding people. He does not see people and the land as separate things. When he talks about it all turns on affection, yes, he's talking about our neighbors and maybe following, Christ, and our enemies. But certainly the land that we're not anything if we don't recognize that we are not separate. They keep talking about the environment. Well, we are part and parcel of the environment. So it all turns on affection. In other words, there's another Indian author who wrote, he's very similar. In fact, they're friends. And he wrote a book called had an essay called Staying Put. And it's about the necessity. I guess it's not a necessity in the short term because people, I can remember when I was a kid, it was like, okay, go to college, move away. Well, he sees that as a fundamental error. It shows up sometimes later in life. When people need your help in your family, friends, and you live all over the place. And I've experienced that. Outstate elder care. But it has other repercussions. If we don't recognize our connection to the land, the trees, you think of the rocks and, the song that goes, I think Frank and I talked about, the rocks and trees, skies and seas, or however that goes. It is very important that we recognize a particular place in a community. When that breaks down, lots of things ultimately don't go very. There's also another fellow, I can read it briefly. As I say, I grew up in farm country. And before I even knew about Wendell Berry, there was a guy who received, it was either a bi-monthly or a monthly publication, The Ohio Farmer. And a pastor by the name of Russell Hoy wrote every week in The Ohio Farmer. And as a teenager, I read that. And this is a thing he said, and I've seen it other places, but it goes, well, the article was in there every issue, was The Country Parson Ponders, Russell Hoy, and he says, God has no hands but our hands to do his work, no feet but our feet to carry the good news of his love, his help, and his forgiveness. He will help us. Now, this is back in a time when God's always a male. He will help us, but it is our responsibility to turn swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. It is the mission of people to convert battleships into ships of mercy, to convert weapons of warfare into instruments of peace. And I see that as very much the thinking of Wendell Berry. If you are connected to intricately recognize your connection to the earth, warfare, this isn't the only thing, but warfare is going to be much less, people are going to engage in it, presumably, much less than they do. Just think of the ecologically, certainly the human beings that have been killed, but think of the ecological damage, the damage to the land, even in the production of military materials. So anyway, that's kind of what I was trying to get across in something I think I sent out, maybe to you, both of you. So anyway, that
I see certainly certain ideas from Scripture, about the land for like Israel. The land is very important to the whole framework of the
and the Palestinians.
Well, there's that big problem there, sure,
yeah.
And there really there's truths on both sides on that score, and like the changing of the weapons to plowshares and that sort of thing. We find that in the Psalms, and then also reflected in the Christian point. I'm wondering is this a kind of a conservatism?
In the set, yeah. You say conservative these days, and people jump to a political thing, and this is not political, social.
But
it's about conservation.
Right, but that's political too. Conversation.
Well, it's gotten politicized, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Right, but there is a mentality, though, that goes along with conservatism, regardless of the political. And you have progressive people, people who like creative people who want to do new things all the time. Now they like the what were the movers? It was the movers. The other group. Uh, the ones who wanted to collectivize and organize and all. So you have this, I think, perpetual with the human nature. You have the people that worked on the land, oh, the agrarian people who had a certain religious outlook, the people that tilled the ground. Then you had the invaders. The word I'm trying to find is the Genghis Khan I'm thinking of, and those Alexander the Great conquerors, and they go along with the prophets over against the fertility cults. The people that were worked the land more, they were more aligned with fertility cults and that sort of thing because it comes from the ground. Mother Earth, they thought they would don't talk about it. And you got Mother Russia, but the fatherland's German. So you have all that massive space again, land, Siberia, a whole bit, And then Germany is really a new country. As a country, it wasn't really there before about 1880, something like that, 1850. And so they became sort of a new man on the block, and then they had to express themselves. And I think Napoleon had a lot to do with that, that they solidified their people. But anyway, you have these movements, and it's not new. But you have this conservatism. You have always also the people on the move, and this isn't just something new. This goes back in history. Part of you have the movers. There's people who take advantage of other people. They conquer, and that's nothing new. And so you have conservatives who want to hold on, and also in the new inventions and that sort of thing. Now I wonder if Wendell would his sons be as anxious to stay on the farm and place as he would be. I would wonder if some of his sons would be more wanting to go out. Hasn't that been quite a bit the tendency? A lot of I'm thinking of the movie with Anthony Hopkins back with when he went to get away from everything and went to Montana and raised his family there. And then before long, a third of the boys went to World War I and fought. And then you had one who wanted to get away altogether. So, yeah, the father wanted to hold on and avert any connection with the World War I, which was coming along. Of course, a couple of the sons were killed. And so there's this tendency, would his sons be as anxious to stay with the place? Because they will want new things quite often. And so you have this tension between the old conservative and then the new, the younger generation. Now, at my age, I'm 95, and I should be very conservative. I hope wise, but I should be very conservative, but I'm not. A lot of the people here, Frank, are very conservative and, set in their ways. And I'm the opposite. I can't get enough of the new. I watch YouTube all the time to keep up with the very things that, Frank, you're doing this with the electronics. I think you're quite open on that, aren't you? Right?
I'm looking for
I don't know anybody else that's doing what you're doing at your age.
I'm looking for ways to to accomplish the goal of connecting ordinary people who
Yeah.
inevitably turn out to be extraordinary people and
Yeah.
to use access to media to further the human condition, the place where humans explore and discover what it means to be human together.
Mhm.
And that involves the use of the media. It also involves taking what we get from the media to the guy in the next apartment or the next house or the person that we meet in the grocery store or the gas pump. Hopefully, it's not a car tax.
Well,
Taking back. I have a definition of conservative that goes back to a friend who was politically very conservative, but his definition, I think, should be considered by people who claim conservatism. And his definition was of the word of conservation is the wise use of resources.
mhm.
To and I is it politically conservative to be concerned about 6 inches of topsoil and regular rain? Not with industrial conservatives. Industrial conservatives are more concerned with profit margins and growth. And I think that therein, how we define conservative needs some further examination. And I think naming things correctly and so that we respect the roots of the words that's important. And I think looking at differences in the very nature of language is important. All of this has to go in together.
But don't you think also, Frank, a new definition should be made for the liberal and the progressive? And I'm a both and person. I'm a both and person. And so you don't pigeonhole me as a liberal, but I think you need a both and. You need a redefinition of words, but same thing with the progressive or liberal point of view.
I think you're right. I think we need to.
Our words change. Our words change all the time. Part of the Christian faith is you got the Bible. Well, which Bible? Which print? Which edition?
Yeah.
Why? Because some of the phrases of the Old Testament, I'm sorry, from the King James Version, is the opposite of the actual meaning. Like a word like prevent. Prevent means to predict something possibly, rather than prevent, venture. So you see, words change all the time, and yeah, you want to hold on to the old and define that, yes, but also the new needs definition.
I think that there's plenty that we can accomplish with conversations like this.
Indeed.
And I think that
you're saying too about there's a parallel too with about the beginning of the 1900s when Teddy Roosevelt had a real problem with monopolies and the trusts. Partly of this is exploitation, which it's a big word for Marx, communism. So don't confuse that politically, but there is exploitation. unfair labor practices of the 1900s, child labor, women's being used in the wrong way, labor-wise, no unions. Carnegie inherited all these people, wrong word, brought people from Europe into Pittsburgh, places like that, housed them, and they got locked in 12 hours a day. One day a year you get off besides Sunday, and that's 4th of July. 12 hours a day. They were slaves economically. And the monopolies, you know who ran the country at that time? J.P. Morgan. And Teddy Roosevelt said, we got to do something. And Morgan said, well, I'll send my attorney over. No, he says, you come over. And he wanted Taft to take over his projects, and Taft didn't. And therefore, Roosevelt started his own party. Teddy Roosevelt. And then he lost because Wilson, then he split the party. So anyway, there was exploitation there. And on the matter of farming, this gets into economics here. As far as farming is concerned, what about co-ops? It becomes economic. What about co-ops? And Pope Leo XIII was way back at the beginning of the 1900s, suggested what they call redistribution. And it's being done in Mosque province of Spain, where the farmers are part owners of the big corporation of farming, and they elect their own board members and leaders and presidents and governors, we want to call it. So there are ways to fight this kind of, what was the word when they came in and took over the farm? The movers, was it the movers or the hoppers or whatever it was? There were the stickers.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah. The stickers and the I've got it right here.
What was the other word?
No, I know what you're talking about. I was thinking Wendell Berry. Stickers and well, those boomers.
Boomers, that was it.
Yeah, boomers, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I want to put this out for your consideration because there are ways to get around exploitation, and whereby people aren't treated unjustly. And this goes back to a moral issue too. It goes back to morals. Injustice, exploitation. Those are moral arguments that are theological, part of which is inborn in us. The problem is, and of course, the Christian faith, the Judeo-Christian tradition has enhanced these and refined the moral that was there naturally. We're born with a certain morality. But then with either one, we don't live it. That's the problem. We know right from wrong. We all have a conscience, but we don't live it. That's why this is you have the tension between the place, and then as far as taking over going back to, we do have we have problems all along the way we were talking about here. The movement, people moving all over the place. Sure, we have to find new ways to communicate to families. More and more plane rides to this part of the country, that part, to meet on Thanksgiving, Christmas, try to maintain the people at least. And of course, we can communicate better, what we're doing right now on the Zoom. We're seeing each other a little bit, right? And we're communicating. I hope on a deep level. I hope the things you're bringing out, each of you, on a depth level is something where we have a I believe in relationship. on my other one I had yesterday, we had a good discussion yesterday, and we have a family there. And right here at, what you got here,
Sycamore.
Sycamore, we're getting to grow as a family, a community here. And so then we have the natural family, they come in and out, but that's part of our age. But with something we have to do, and we rediscover new things, we want to hold on. I want to hold on to my kids, and I miss them, and they don't come so forth. But space is important. But space has changed.
I
Yeah.
think there's a couple of things that we need to look at. One is our conversation tends to be human centered at this point, and I think it's important that we step out of that from time to time and look at it from the importance of and the central position of the earth itself, and remember that life on this planet pretty well depends on 6 inches of topsoil and regular rain. That's one thing. The things that live in a certain place over time tend to develop a relatedness to that place that is actually physical. There was some interesting studies done with southwestern Indian tribes who lived on underground growing. I think it was a form of mushroom or tuber, and leaving their native diet resulted in a great deal of diabetes. They were part, and they were connected physically to the particular land that they lived in. The necessity of human migration, or the fact of it, is connected in some ways to people seeking places to be where they can be safe enough to raise families and eat and have shelter. And I think of our history of warfare, and I'm out of all of the societies that I've looked at, there's only one in the Western world that really stands out. Crete, I think, the Minoans had a peaceful society. They traded, they made things, they had very healthy and brave people, from what I understand. And when other civilizations took hold, they took hold in expansive and warlike ways, and the Cretes went down quickly. What alternatives do we have to mass migrations? I mean, incremental migration is one thing, but we're looking at mass migrations again. The Columbian exchange, the migration of people and plants and all that, made huge changes. Not all of them good. Maybe most of them not good. I don't know, but but looking at it from the standpoint of the earth, what is happening to the earth, and then how does that affect living things on earth? And I have a friend, Denise Dykeman. She's an attorney with the Environmental Protection Agency in DC. She was on the Near East Side for a while, and we did some work together in community work. And she said that when she is overwhelmed with her job or with life, and being an environmental attorney for and the EPA, I think, is an overwhelming kind of a thought. But she said that when she feels overwhelmed, she stops and thinks of things in geological time. So perhaps if we try to place our conversation, at least in part, in geological time, and kind of keep that as part of our perspective, I think that might be helpful.
I think, Frank, you bring out a very important conservative point of view, which needs to be addressed. And the attorney, and Tom too, the land, the place, and yet that needs to be held on to and protected, and we can't move too fast. And I think one of the problems with the Indian diet, it maybe it's because it's somewhat Americanized too. What about our diet, and why so much obesity in the American populace? High blood pressure, a lot of cancer, and all these things that they advertise that are refinement of the foods, refinement, destroying the foods we're eating, and we buy into it. The sugar, the starches, the salts, and we're getting no value or little value. Or I'm exaggerating, I know, but exaggerating. And look at our health. Look at our health.